And we're back with some more Hartford Whalers franchise mode in FHM 8. And at this one, we are in the middle of year number 4. And we are currently 10, 9, and 5, 25 points on the season so far, second in our division, and fourth in the conference. So, at least not for this day and age, we are not doing that bad. A lot of teams in this era are going to have more losses than wins. So, as long as you can stay 500 or above, that's good enough to make the playoffs, it seems. But obviously, as we've seen from teams like Montreal, Boston, Edmonton, even Philly, who are 17-5-1, it's going to be very tough to beat those top teams during the playoffs. So while we're not in an ideal situation, I think we're in a much better situation than we were last year. So I think if we make the playoffs this year, we should at least have a decent chance of beating a team like Toronto or Boston or maybe even Montreal. Because we may not be scoring as much as we were last year, but we're not letting in nearly as many goals as we were last year either. What, a 3.54 goals against per game, which is 9th in the league. And a look at our penalty kill, we're actually 4th in the league for penalty kill. So I just want to see what happens going into these playoffs. I don't think we're going to make any drastic moves. If we get ousted in the first round again, like it's nothing, then I think we can officially start thinking about moving on from guys like Staunton, Rogers, maybe even Mark Howe. Obviously, Coffey is staying. Paul Coffey is staying no matter what. He's only 21. He's 4.5-star ability already. There's no reason to get rid of him. But basically, anyone who's not Paul Coffey can go in the offseason if we do not make it past the first round this year. Because even with our new head coach, new goalie coach, new defensive coach, if all that isn't enough, then we clearly need to just get younger and then get better all over again. And maybe that's the route we should have taken with this team to begin with. I don't know. Like I said, I seriously thought this was going to be a 1 or 2 year rebuild, but it is definitely not looking like that. But for right now, I'm going to stay optimistic, and we'll see how we do going up to the trade deadline, I think. All right, so we're on February 1st. We are roughly a month away from the trade deadline. We're 25, 19, and 7 for 57 points, second in the division, and fourth in the conference still. So at this point, I think it's safe to say we're making the playoffs, just a matter of where we're going to be seated. Take a look at the team stats. Goals for per game, we're actually in 8th in the league now with a 3.9. Goals against per game, we're 7th in the league with a 3.43, so we're getting better as the season's gone on here. Power play, we're 8th in the league with a 25%. And the penalty kill, we are 3rd in the league with an 82%. So we're playing much better. I think this is our best stretch so far this GM mode. I mean, as we take a look at our player stats, obviously we don't have the offensive juggernaut that we used to, but it is much, much better defensively. And I'm starting to feel a little bit more hopeful for our playoff chances, or at least our chances to advance in the playoffs. I mean, I know we're making the playoffs at this point, unless we lose basically every game from now on, but I'm pretty sure we'll be fine. Taking a look at the trade block here, and there's pretty much no one. So if I want to make a trade, at least in this day and age, it seems that I have to probably just go based off whatever I need and not based off a team's trade block, because it seems almost every player on the trade block is either half-star or 1-star ability, maybe some 1.5 stars in there, and the rare 2-star. So that's going to make trades a real pain, to say the least, heading into the trade deadline. So we'll keep simulating up to the deadline here, but I don't think we're doing anything in regards to moves. Maybe if I can acquire a pick, I will. But as we've seen by the previous drafts that we've had here, it seems like everything besides the first round is basically not relevant. So, I don't know what the point of trading for depth picks would even be, unfortunately, in this day and age, So this was our first draft, year number 1. This seems to be the exception so far, because a look at year number 2, the year number 2 draft, we haven't had anybody play in the NHL as of yet. I mean, I guess that's understandable considering it's year 4, so they haven't had much time to develop just yet, but even these depth picks, like most of them, anyway, I think we'll advance to March 1st, which will be right before the trade deadline. We'll decide if we need to do anything. If not, we'll just advance to the end of the season here. Oh boy, here we go. Pettersson and Stastny. Pettersson with a torn pectoral cage muscle, 1 to 2 months. To the injury list to go. Stastny, 1%. Calf strain, 2 to 3 weeks. All right, that's not too bad, but still missing one of our better players there. All right, so we're on March 1st. We are 31, 23, and 9 with 71 points. We are currently still second in the division and 4th in the conference, so it doesn't look like we have much to worry about in terms of dropping out of the playoffs. Ooh, Pittsburgh. First of all, they're 10, 48, and 4. And second of all, they want to give up Steve Conroyd, a 22-year-old defenseman with 1.5-star ability and 2.5-star potential, and an 84 defensive grade. He's only played 5 games though. I wonder what he would cost to trade for. If I could get him for, let's say, Hangsleben, who's already 30. Let's take a look at Conroyd. Oh yeah, he's good defensively. So if I add Hangsleben on there, hardly likely, yeah, that makes sense. They would definitely want something more for a player like him. I was hopeful because he's on the trade block and he's only 1.5 star ability, but it looks like this is going to be a bit too difficult to trade for without giving up a key piece of the future. So I think I'm going to leave that trade be for right now, but I'll definitely keep Steve Conroyd in mind as we go into the draft, presuming he's still available at that point. And Conroyd was the only player who I was even remotely interested in on the trade block, so I think we're going to just advance to the end of the regular season here. It's not like we've been doing too terrible here. I mean, we are in the top half of the league of basically every stat. 7th for goals against, 6th for goals for. Face-offs appears to be the one area where we're really struggling. We're 15th in the league with a 49%, but everywhere else we're doing pretty well. So I don't think there's any need to really shake things up too much. So let's advance up to April. And we have finished the regular season of year number 4. We have finished 43, 28, and 9. Definitely our best season to date. We finished 2nd in the division, 3rd in the conference with 95 points, right behind Boston and Montreal. So you know what? I'm feeling pretty confident here for this team going into the playoffs. I mean, we're still obviously not as good as Montreal or Philly, but I think with a record like this, we at least showed that we are capable of standing up to those teams. And with our new and improved defense, now sporting a 3.35 goals against per game, 7th in the league, I think we have a decent chance. And then, not to mention our goal scoring, 4.04, 6th in the league. Even faceoffs got better. We're 11th in the league for that now, 50%. Power play's 4th in the league with a 26.5, and the penalty kill's 5th with a 81%. So yeah, like I said, we are basically the top third of the league for everything besides faceoffs, and even that we've improved in. And before we head into the playoffs to see our first opponents, let's take a look at the player stats for the end of the season. So Paul Coffey leads our team with 86 points on the season in 76 games played. 45 goals, wow. For a defenseman, that is pretty insane, actually. Goes from 61 points to 80 points to 86 points with 45 goals. Rogers with 76 in 78 games played. Staunton with 72. So he goes from 47 goals to 68 to 42, not only to 22 goals, but he still had 50 assists this season. So it's not that bad, especially with Paul Coffey picking up the slack for him, goal scoring wise. Dave Andershock in his rookie season, 19 years of age, scores 59 points in 76 games played, +6. Not a bad season for the 19-year-old. I would not be surprised if he was in the running for the Calder. You have Poulon with 52. You have Peter Stastny with 51 and 55. He got a major injury there. But the good news is that he's back on the team now, so he will be playing for the start of the playoffs. Then you have Hagman with 51, Roberts with 50, Anton Stastny with 48, Bernie Nichols with 42, Freitzer with 38, 37 for Kissio and Sims, 33 for Mark Howe in 47 games. Also spent quite a big portion of the season injured. I believe it was towards the beginning of the season. And you have Marian Stastny with 30 in 46, Rochefort with 24, 22 for Hagsleben and Carroll, 21 for Stevenson, 11 for Samuelson, 4 for Neufeld in 13 games played. And in goal, Garrett with an 896 save percentage and Davidson with an 874. Yeah, Davidson has definitely not been impressive so far in his time here. I think during the offseason we need to move on from him, because even with the improved defensive play, he still has not been great with his stats. Is just barely better than last year. But the system change definitely seemed to help John Garrett's play. It took him back up to an 896, which is the highest save percentage he's had so far, even higher than his year number 1 save percentage when he had that 892. So hopefully Jack Ferrara sees reason and puts Garrett as our starting goaltender for the playoffs, unlike our previous coach who ran with Davidson instead for whatever reason, even though he played less games and had far worse stats. And we are facing the Detroit Red Wings in the first round of the playoffs. I believe we faced them last year, and they unfortunately did upset us last time, so looking for a little bit of redemption here against the Detroit Red Wings in round number 1 of the Year 4 playoffs. So I think we'll end things off here, and in the next one, we will get to the Year 4 playoffs against the Detroit Red Wings to start out in round number 1.